cash flow streams. Cash flow streams takes the idea of present value and future value and does it with multiple cash flows. So we're getting one step closer to real life. We're going to start with the present value of an uneven cash flow stream. Now when I say uneven, I just mean that we'll have multiple years of cash flows, but they won't be the same amount each time. Then we'll do a future value of an uneven cash flow. So we'll basically take several cash flows and find their value sometime into the future. And of course, I'll show you how to do this on the financial calculator. And then the biggest goal is to understand what we're really doing in finance. We're moving money around and collapsing cash flows into one value. This comes into play when we think about things like valuing a firm, valuing an opportunity, say valuing our career salary, valuing a house, a loan, anything we want to put a price tag on, we're going to use this approach. So I'll start with the present value of a cash flow stream. And if you think about it, a set of cash flows is really just a set of individual future values. So if we want to find the present value of a whole set of cash flows, we just find the present value of each individual cash flow. And we can add them together. Now a basic rule in finance is if you value things at the same point in time, and present value means we're valuing them today at time 0, if they are all valued at the same point in time, we can add, subtract, do whatever. So if I want the total present value of a cash flow stream, I just discount each cash flow back to today and add them together. So read the following example and hit pause, and when you're ready, we'll continue. If you look at this contract, there's 3 years and 3 distinct values. At the end of the first year, we'll get $100,000. End of the second year, we'll get $125,000. And the end of the third year, we'll get $150,000. Our discount rate is 10%, which means basically we can earn 10% on our investments. So what we're trying to do here is basically ask the question, how much could you pay me today and I would be happy and you wouldn't have to pay me any of the rest of the terms of the contract? So we're finding the idea of an equivalence. So we want the present value of each year of this contract. So put it into a formula, we discount each of these cash flows individually, bring them back to today in today's dollars. So we take the $100,000 at year 1 and discount 1 year. We take the $125,000 at year 2 and discount 2 years. And then we take the $150,000 paid at year 3 and discount 3 years. We can solve these individually if we want to, and we get a value for each year of the contract today. So basically for year 1, you could pay me $90,909.09 today, or you could wait a year and pay me $100,000. Either way, I'd be just as happy. The same logic applies to years 2 and 3. When we add the present value of each of these cash flows together, we get $306,912.10. Now solving this on the cash flow saves you a lot of time. Here's what we do. If you notice on your calculator on the row above the time value of money keys, you should have a CF button, which stands for cash flow. If you have the TIBA Plus, hit the CF key. And what you'll see first is you'll see CF0 equals. This is basically saying what is the cash flow at time 0. Well here, there is no cash flow. So just hit the down arrow on your calculator and you should see CF or C01 equals cash flow at time 1. Type in 100,000 and hit the enter key. Now hit down arrow again. Now I don't have this in the notes, but what you'll see is F01. That basically stands for frequency. So how many times in a row do we receive $100,000? Well, here is just 1. So hit down arrow again, because that's the default setting is 1. And now you'll see C02 equals, which is cash flow at time 2. We'll put in 125,000 and hit enter. Go down arrow again, and you'll see the frequency of cash flow 2. That happens one time again, so hit down arrow one more time. And then you see C03. That's our year 3 cash flow. We put 150,000 in and hit enter. So now we have all our cash flows entered into the calculator. We next hit the NPV key, which is right next to the cash flow key if you notice. it says I equals. That's your interest rate. So just type in 10 and enter, down arrow, and we'll hit compute, and our NPV will be calculated. Notice we got to the same result as we did by doing the cash flows individually by hand. Now this is sort of an advanced concept, but I wanted to introduce this to you now in case you wanted to go ahead and adopt this. We'll get back to this again when we do stock pricing in the later module. Now we've done a present value. The future value is the same exact concept. We're going to move a cash flow to some point in the future. So the cash flow at year 1, in our example we just did, we would move it forward 2 years, out to year 3, if we wanted to get to the end of the contract. So we're really just going to compound the cash flow the number of times it takes to get to the end of the contract or the cash flow stream. By hand, here's our formula. So hit pause and read this example again. Notice we have the same example as before. We have 3 years. First year's 100,000, second year's 125,000, third year's 150,000. We want to find the value of this contract at the end of year 3. So in other words, if you didn't pay me along the way my salary, how much could you pay me at the end of the 3rd year to make me happy, or to make me whole, if you want to use a financial term? 10% is still our interest rate, so let's solve for the value of our contract at year 3. Notice we take the first year and we compound it twice, because if you look at the timeline, there's 2 years of interest between year 1 and year 3. So the $100,000 would earn 10% twice. Looking at year 2, we get $125,000, but it's only 1 year away from the end of the contract, so you'll just earn 1 plus 10%, or 1 compound period. And then finally, out at year 3, we've already received $150,000, so there's no interest for it to earn. It's at the end of the contract. Now here I have it, times 1 plus 0.1 to the 0, just to show you there's 0 time elapsed. So to find the future value, we take each of our results and add them together, and we get 408,500. Now on the calculator it'd be hard to do this, because the calculator cash flow keys are set up to give you a present value. But what we could do is take the present value and move it out to year 3. Well, to do that, just think of our present value as a lump sum or one-time cash flow that we get today. It's just the present value of the 3 years of the contract. And we're going to find a future value 3 years down the line. So we would just compound it 3 times at 10%, and notice we get the same future value as before.